Thank you again for coming down and doing this, man.
Yeah, man.
I'm
Good
looking
to
forward
see
to
you.
this. Dude, it's good to see you too. I have okay. So 2 years ago or so, a year and a half, because you used to do the roast a lot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the first time I saw you do stand up,
Oh, yeah.
and you are fucking hilarious, dude.
Yeah, dude. I'm very good at the roasts. I don't.
Well,
I don't,
cheers, first of all. Good to see you, man.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I don't. I'm not. I don't like toot my own horn too much, but like, I'm pretty good at the roasts.
Yeah, it's fucking gnarly. Like I look at, especially like, because I've always been a huge fan of like the Comedy Central stuff and all that, but even like the local people here are fucking gnarly.
Dude, I'm glad. So they're coming back. They used to be every month or every other month. And then the guy who produces them, Evan Rons, I think he was just a little burnt out from doing it. Fair enough. It's a lot to produce, a lot to book. So he's doing them less frequently, but they're coming back this December 29th.
I was gonna say on the 29th, right?
Yeah.
That Friday.
You ever thought about doing them? Or just bear witness to the carnage?
I am way too early in my comedy endeavors.
Fair enough, but I would say, I mean,
because I know I can take it, but it's dishing it out that I'm not good at.
if you like writing jokes, I think it's a perfect exercise for that because it forces you to be succinct. It forces you to like be very not obvious, but like you can't waste time.
Yeah,
Like you just have to be boom, boom, boom. And it's a good exercise in the sense that like it's easy to write jokes, or easy, but I like doing it for a roast because the setup for your joke is standing right there. So everyone in the room, you don't have to spend a lot of time like getting into an idea or what's the best way into this? Like they're right there. Their face is right there. This is what their face looks like, to boil it down.
In your experience of both participating and watching, how much of winning a roast battle is the actual prepared material and it's the off the cuff? It can only happen in that moment. Whether it's you're reacting to something that happens organically in the event, or you are doing a quick rebuttal that just came to your head off of what the guy just said or gal just said.
Some of the quick rebuttals are the best moments. Like you remember those. They get, a big pop. Everyone thinks that's like, when you're leaving, you're like, that was hilarious. Remember when they said that? But if you're going to win one or at least put up a good showing, like you have to, it's all prepared material.
The writing of it.
Like if you don't come with at least 5 or 6 well-crafted and then have some sense of like the order of them, or I try and like, this is more than I've ever even thought about it, but like getting into the analysis of the roast, but like I try to at least like order them in such a way that you're like try and tackle one subject in one joke exchange. And then you don't want to spill that over into the next one, but like build off that. Like, this is what this guy looks like is one thing. And then this is what he seems like is the next one, or this is what, and then just kind of freestyling from there. But like, yeah, I would say the preparing is 90% of it.
How long have you been doing comedy for?
5 years about.
5 years.
If you take out, like I never really know. I just say 5 years because I think it's been 5 years. But like if there was a, for the COVID year, so like probably like 4.
Right.
But I started in like late 2018.
Okay. And because you're originally from Chicago, right? Okay. Were you doing comedy at all in Chicago?
No, I started here. I moved.
Feel free to continue. I'm just gonna like make sure the cameras are angled and stuff.
I moved to Florida right after college, lived there for like 6 months, and then moved to New Mexico after that, and then started doing comedy. So like, I actually did comedy in Chicago for the first time this summer. Had no like, well, because like people say like, oh, you're from Chicago, yeah, big comedy city. I didn't have any connections. I didn't know anybody. So just went there for a few months this summer and like tried to make those connections and meet people and start getting booked there. And it was good. It's a big scene. It's just big mostly. Like the more you travel, like it feels like every city's comedy scene is kind of exactly the same. It's just varying sizes of it. Like they have the same people.
Right, the same archetype of comedian.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't even feel like an archetype. You're just like, that is that guy. That's the exact same person. I think I've heard him do that joke, but like,
The podcast is sponsored by the amazing people over at Chop Chili Company. If you've been a listener to the podcast for a while, you know that I love these guys and they're amazing chili. And right now they are running a special offer exclusive to the listeners of this podcast. Go online to chopchilico.com and use code OnlyKings at checkout, and not only will you receive 25% off your entire order, you will also get a free cookbook based on Hatch chili recipes free at checkout. Like I said, go to chopchilico.com and use code OnlyKings at checkout. And not only will you receive 25% off your order, you will also get a free cookbook to go with your chili. They are also in stores across New Mexico at stores such as Albertsons, John Brooks, Lowe's, and a bunch more in cities such as Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Tucumcari, Las Vegas, Roswell, Ruidoso, and even Hobbs, New Mexico. And for our listeners in El Paso, Texas, we are in your supermarkets as well. Like I said, go to chopchilico.com, use code OnlyKings at checkout for 25% off and a free cookbook. Now back to the podcast.
yeah, so that was interesting to like dive into that pool because there's just a lot of bodies.
Right.
Yeah.
I was talking about this. I haven't put the episode out yet, but I was talking about this with Tyler Lovely when he came through last week. Do you ever get, because obviously you want to do this long term, you're doing it for fucking 5 years and you're doing comedy full time. So what is your thought on the explosion of comedy right now? So many people are trying it. People are calling it oversaturated, that there's too many people doing it. Like, I have my own thoughts on that, but do you even spend time thinking about that? Does that worry you at all? Does that take up any headspace?
Do people say that? Like, is that a narrative out there that it's oversaturated?
I've heard that both in person and, I mean, I take the online stuff with a grain of salt, but if you keep seeing a narrative over and over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, if people think that, I guess I don't spend time thinking about it, but I don't feel that that's like, I can't imagine. I have not been to a city yet where there isn't an appetite from an audience to even just, and not just for like one particular show. Like if you go to Denver, they have arguably the best comedy scene anywhere. Like
really?
I mean, it depends what you like, but like obviously New York is, New York, but like people say Denver's by far the best comedy scene in between the coasts. That's one argument. People like Chicago too, but like it's impossible to spend a week in Denver or even just a weekend and think like there's too much comedy because there's the crowds there and all the diversity of rooms and the different shows they have in so many different places, all the clubs they have. And that's not even counting like a huge name from Netflix or something coming through and doing like the Paramount Theater and they sell that out for a weekend. But like, yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like I'd be curious to hear what Tyler said about it, but like, if you like doing it, who cares? Like,
right.
I do think there's a saturation. This could just be my social media because that's all I have on there is comics and other comedians. And I get sick of seeing stand-up reels, like I'll watch it if I like the person, but if it's just someone I follow because I met them once, I'm scrolling right. I was like, I know the structure of this. Like, there's a chance you surprise me, but I've heard it, and I don't. It's not that it's not good, but it's just like we're all just feeding the beast. Like you have to do it. I would love there to hit that saturation point with that and start to come back down where it's like people don't feel compelled. That like if you're not posting your stand-up clips, if you're not producing on social media, then you're not. It's like the only way you can hope to get plucked from obscurity or have a following or get booked at these clubs. Like it's not the best incentive structure, I don't think. I don't think it makes you a better comic to just be so social media focused. So from that perspective, I do think there's too much, but that's also could just be my algorithm. But I don't think in terms of like audiences and people like buying tickets that there's too much. Like when Tom Segura came to Albuquerque, earlier this year, it sold out immediately, and resale tickets were like $800.
Right. Well, he's coming through again in like March or some shit, I think.
Yeah.
Or January, one of the two.
Yeah, if you sell tickets for $800, you're definitely going to make Albuquerque another stop on your new tour. But like, I mean, that's just here. Like, I don't know what it is in other places, but yeah, I don't feel like that's a problem. I just think, and especially if you are in it and you like doing it and you like the craft of it and trying to get better at it, not the kind of thing you think about, really. I don't know.
No, granted, I'm not surprised to hear you say that, but it makes sense. And I think, unfortunately, the social media aspect, the incentive structure, I don't think that's going away anytime soon, just because of how big it is and how. Right. And I think at face value, a lot of people look at someone like Matt Rife, and it's like, oh, well, he just got famous off of one clip. It's like, well, yeah, but he also had over a decade's worth of putting in time and effort and all this kind of type of shit. People conveniently overlook that, but they do focus on the instant gratification of, oh, well, this reel that I put up got 70 likes. This one got 82.
Right.
Is that progress? Am I getting better? And you're right. That is a bad incentive structure to look at when you're trying to do this specific thing better.
I guess I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but to make my point more clear, I think, is that like it's a bad incentive structure as far as getting better at comedy.
I agree.
Because like you're not becoming a better joke writer if all you're thinking about is you're not building your act better if all you're thinking about is what's the quickest way to get this joke out? Like it has to hold some, a 13-year-old TikToker's attention for 8 seconds, and it just sucks. And Matt Rife's a whole other thing, but like, and we could spend hours talking about that dynamic, but it's all in this area that we're into. But like, I think people can criticize, or not criticize, maybe the wrong word, but like, just think he's not that good. But like the results speak. Like he sold out like a world tour in like 30 minutes. Yeah. Like, so it's like, but that speaks to the power of social media, and that's why the incentive structure, like that's why people are doing it. You're not going to get to that like he's got that market. Like people who don't know anything about stand-up comedy will, like my friend's mom at a wedding this summer is like, just knows I do comedy, and they're just like, do you know Matt Rife? Like that, he broke through to the regular civilian's mindset who doesn't know about comedy, doesn't care, has never been to a show, but like your algorithm shows you him because you liked one of his videos or whatever. But in that sense, I wouldn't criticize or hate on him too much, because like in that sense, he might be bringing more people to the table. Like somebody like that who makes a comment to me about like, oh, you do comedy, do you know about Matt Rife? Like maybe they like Matt Rife so much they branch out into Mike Birbiglia, fucking John, whoever. They Bill Burr's now in my algorithm, whatever, like that.
Right. Well, and then my thought process on that too is to build on that is they go to Google and they're like comedy in my town.
Yeah.
And now they're exposed to what local stuff looks like. For better or worse, they're exposed to what that looks like. And personally, that's why I am pretty fucking excited. I know there's a lot of nonsense around it. I'm gonna have to go into it if you don't want to, but like personally, I'm quite excited for the comedy cantina that's happening in Santa Ana. It's at Santa Ana, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Up in Bernalillo. I'm very excited for that because I just looked at the lineup of people that are coming. I'm not the biggest Stephen Maio fan, not just because like he's not my type for comedy.
Sure.
But I looked at the lineup of people that he does have coming. I'm like, oh shit! Like I know that person from Kill Tony. I know this person from this podcast. Right. I know this one. I'm like, oh fuck! Like, and then I was talking about this with Tyler as well. But I would imagine that because you give me the impression that you're great at comedy.
Well, thank you.
But you also understand the business side of it too. You just give me that impression of that. And my thought process on this, and I'd love to be told that I'm wrong, or I would hate to be told that I'm wrong, but if we have a bigger comedy club, that's what they're treating it, right? As an actual comedy club, right? Okay, so we have a bigger comedy club that these big name acts can come to. It seats like 300, 400 people. And that now gives, so like if someone like I know Shane Torres is coming, Ali Makovsky's coming. So let's say they're coming in, they're like, hey, either I purposefully did not bring a feature or an opener, or I only brought a feature, or my feature got sick, or whatever. They're saying
they don't travel with one. They
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. So it's like, hey, give me your best feature. Give me who's got the tightest 5 minutes, the tightest 8 minutes, and now you got local people who can now go in front of a lot more people than they would have ever been exposed to.
Yeah.
And then the turnaround on that, in my mind, is, let's say you are that person that gets a Matt Rife in their algorithm, and they look up stand-up comedy, they see the show that they just missed. It's like, oh, well, we missed this Tripp Stelnicki guy at Santa Ana, but he's going to be at Dry Heat next weekend. Right. If he's good enough for that, he's got to be great. Let's go fucking check it out. Yeah. Now more business goes everywhere else.
I mean, anybody who says anything other than what you just said is not being honest about wanting comedy to succeed in New Mexico and in Albuquerque. Like, it's just, I mean, it's a cliche, but a rising tide is lifts all boats. It's just, there's no world in which having a club like that is bad for comedy in our city or in New Mexico. Yeah. There's no world in which, I hope it's successful. You know, I hope to check it out. I can't wait to see it. And like, I hope, but seeing the fact that they opened or they're at their opening and that they have acts booked out a few months out, it's like, you know, opening any kind of business is tough. So like, you want to see that they're doing it right.
And there's intention behind it too.
There's some intentionality, and they've done it. I mean, they had comedy there before COVID, so it's not like they're new to comedy. It wasn't Stephen Michael Quezada's club. It was
called The Stage, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was told. Because again, I've lived here my whole life, but I am so ignorant to entertainment here up until 2 years ago when I started doing this podcast.
It's not, I wouldn't say you're ignorant, but it's probably just that, like you, like maybe like a lot of people, it doesn't seem like we have a central. I mean, information is so fragmented anyway these days, but it's not like 20 years ago, you'd open the newspaper and you'd be like, here's everything that's happening this weekend.
Right.
If you're not connected on these certain Facebook groups or whatever, you have no idea.
Right.
And that's why advertising for shows can be so difficult and all that. But like Dry Heat is great. God bless Sarah and Kelly. They do a great job. They've been open a year and a half now. Like it's clear like they have a certain kind of comic who's going to headline that club. Some people have headlined a few times. Like I opened for Shang Wang last week. Like he's a big name. He's a Netflix guy. They can pull those kinds of people, but there are certain comics who aren't going to perform in a club that small. That's just the way it is. It's not worth their while. I'm not speaking ill or I don't think out of turn about their rates.
It's just business, right?
You're not going to do it. But if you have a weekend at the casino and then you're here for an extra day because you've never been to Albuquerque or whatever you're doing, I don't know what your run looks like, there's no reason you wouldn't pop in and do a spot there too. It's a different kind of comic doing a different kind of room. Like a Kyle Kinane would do Dry Heat, I would think, but it's not like he wouldn't or couldn't do the Santa Ana Star. But it's like they're just like, you're not gonna ever get a theater comic or not a theater, like, because Dry Heat is a theater, but you know what I mean, like
someone who would sell out anywhere between 500 to 800 seats.
Right, they're not going to do 60-seater.
Exactly,
it's just not.
And I don't think you're speaking now. Granted, from what I've been told from like secondhand information, there are people that would hear that in Albuquerque and say, "Well, you're talking bad about Dry." He's like, "No, that's called talking business." And I'm sure Sarah and Kelly will say the same exact thing because they're smart.
Anyone, I mean, there was some like social media like fluff about the Quezada's club from the scene, and it's all just very, with meaning no disrespect, but it's very, maybe this is what you mean by when you say like I understand the business, because it's like, I don't know if this is true for other things, I just really know comedy, but like complaining about or having some kind of axe to grind truly gets you nowhere in comedy. Like it really, you can be mad that this guy got booked on this and I think I'm funnier than him, but he got it, she got this, we came up at the same time, I should have been, whatever it is, like that, you can feel that, but just to let that like animate you and be how you are reacting to comedy truly does nothing for you. It just, and so like anyone who's feeling aggrieved about that, it's like, bro, you gotta just like, more comedy's good for everybody. Like there's enough fucking people in Albuquerque to support 3 clubs.
Yeah.
And having the club at the Star is Rio Rancho and Bernalillo, which is its own thing. So like downtown has dry heat. Hyenas is going to be in uptown if
Okay,
they
so
ever open.
I was gonna say, is hyenas actually gonna happen?
From
to
what
your
I've
knowledge?
heard, it's always been like 2 months away. So, I mean, I'm not speaking ill on them because I do know like how difficult it can be to get approvals and construct.
Yeah.
You know, those things do happen, and it's hard to open a brick and mortar business. So I get it, but it's also like it's been a year of like 2 months away. So
Right.
I hope it opens, but I don't think that it's not a zero sum game at that point. Maybe if Albuquerque's and the greater Albuquerque's 500,000 people, you can have 3 clubs. You can have different acts coming through. I mean, people are making runs from Texas to Vegas, Texas to California, vice versa, like or Phoenix even. And I think there's enough appetite, audience wise, and enough comedy to what we were talking about earlier. There's enough. God knows there's enough comedians out there to fill those spots, like traveling around trying to get up and selling tickets. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't know if you've had Zach Abeda on.
Yeah, yeah. I you know what? I literally just sent him a text 'cause he's in Austin right now.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
I saw that.
Good guy.
He made a point to me. We were talking about Denver because I had just been there. I can't remember, and we were just talking about the differences between Denver and Albuquerque. And he said something to the effect of, Denver's comedy scenes. I don't want to even compare them to us because they're just like I don't want to suck their dick too hard, but it's very. It's on another level. But Zach's point was they're just a few years ahead of us in terms of comedy being cool for people to do. Audience wise, we mean like
that's fair because I feel like broadly still with the popularity, comedy is still seen as like the lower rung of entertainment. Like there's like film and movies and TV, like because TV is like elevated so much, right? So there's like film and TV, music. And then entertainment, and then like comedy.
Yeah, and that's fine.
I'm not to disparage,
no,
but like,
yeah. I think anyone who likes comedy kind of likes it there. I don't like, but like, in the terms of the kind of people who go to shows in Denver are young, attractive, college age, young 20s, like yuppies. They have a lot more in Denver than we have here, but they go to comedy shows because it's Friday night and that's what you do. Yeah, there's concerts. We went to a concert last weekend. Let's go see a comedy show. This person's touring. I saw this person at Comedy Works last week. Oh, I saw this person on Instagram. They're hilarious. I know this person. Whatever it is, they go. Here, we're a few years behind that because not that we don't get young people, but they are by far the minority. And so just to finish the point of like, there's enough audience here to support more clubs or more shows, more mics, whatever it is. There's that. It's such an untapped. We're a college town, and I don't ever see a UNM student at a fucking comedy show. I've done comedy shows across the street from campus. There's none, and so you get that. It just if there's more comedy, you would hope that it becomes a more socially exciting thing to do for young people on a date, whatever it is. Like it's not that you don't see people on dates, but just not as much. You go to Denver, you see like. The demographics are just wildly different. And that was Zach's point, was just that it's not that cool thing to do. Yeah, the Avalanche are playing tonight, but I want to see this guy. Like you would make that decision. Here it's like the Lobos round. I'm not going to that show. Absolutely not. I did a show in Las Cruces last year, or maybe it was even this year. The Aggies were playing. It was before their season got canceled. Basketball. And it was a theater, and there were like 30 people there. Probably like 150 seat theater, 30 people. Yeah. And the producer's kind of freaking out. He's like, I don't know what happened. And I was looking at my phone. I was like, yeah, the Aggies are playing tonight, dude. It's like we're competing with that.
Right.
So that's what you're going up against.
What are in your experience, have you as I noticed that a lot of people, whether it's in comedy, whether it's in music, a lot of people double dip. Like they'll put together shows and then they'll perform in shows as well, right?
Yeah.
Have you had the experience of putting together a show yourself?
Yeah, I produce. I've had a show at Tumbleroot. It's in Santa Fe, which is where I lived before I moved here. It's a distillery concert venue. That was 2-year anniversary show was in like October.
Okay.
It's like every month, every other month. Sometimes I would skip months, but Yeah, big space, like 100 to 150 people each show.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was good.
I was make a trip up there then. Holy shit.
Yeah, I haven't booked any for the new year. We'll see if the last one was not good, so I'm
Well, I was gonna say. So I guess that answers the question. Then, what are the biggest marketing hurdles you have to get over promoting specifically comedy? Because and this is a question that I've asked my music friends.
yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, there is so much talent here, and I've learned this firsthand doing this podcast. Like, there is so much fucking talent here, but unless like the only reason I know about shows, whether it's music or comedy, is because I am followers or friends of these people that are putting on the shows or that are in the shows.
Yeah.
Like if I were like, I know for a fact that I'm not getting, or that my friends aren't getting comedy advertisements on their shit.
Right.
Like I'm the one always telling them about it.
Yeah, nobody's ever heard of a show that you've put. I could be on a show, I'd post it like 10 times. People would be like, oh, I didn't know you were on that night. I was like, dude, I don't. But that's, I mean, I could get into how the algorithm is just the most impossible thing to figure out. Nobody has any answers with that. But I mean, in my experience running that show in Santa Fe, it seemed to be a little easier because the demographic in Santa Fe is older. So I would kind of do old-fashioned marketing technique. I put in the calendar in the newspaper, do some targeted Facebook. Lots of people on Facebook up there. There's a Facebook community group, so you just post in there. Just trying to get into as many eyes as possible, in front of as many eyes as possible, but like just kind of using the demographics of that area to your advantage. And like here, I don't know. I mean, I'm friends with a lot of comics who produce shows and some who don't anymore because it was just so hard to fill the seats. Like, yeah, I don't have any answers, man. It's hard. I don't know unless you're the kind of person who seeks it out.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Like I used to, for the early on in that Santa Fe show, I would spend hours just hanging posters all over town. And then after it kind of became successful, after a few, I stopped doing that, thinking like, ooh, I gotta stop showing up. I think I benefited from the fact that it's a venue that has shows every weekend, not comedy. This was the only comedy show, but like there was a certain type of person who would just go to Tumbleroot Distillery
because they like the venue.
Whatever they're showing, I'll pay the $10.
I mean, that's how I feel
folk
about
music. Cool. Yeah.
That's how I feel about Launchpad.
Yeah.
I'll just drop into Launchpad. I don't care who the band is
Right.
or whatever. It's like, well, if they got Launchpad, they should be decent.
So then the question becomes like, how do you as a venue or a producer become like Launchpad is in your head where it's like, whatever it is, it'll be good. Yeah. And usually if it's like Dry Heat Comedy Club, I think has the problem, I don't think I'm saying anything Sarah and Kelly don't already know, but like, since they don't have alcohol at most shows, people are not going to just go there because they want to go out for the night. They're coming out for us. Your audience is there to see the show. They're not just like strolling in like, we'll have a drink. I don't care who's on, like whatever.
Right.
Doing comedy show tonight. That's it.
Right.
We went to the movies last night. Let's do comedy tonight. And so alcohol and, just knowing about places, whether it's like you just have that reputation in people's heads. Like, yeah.
It's an element of decompression with it too. It's like, I trust the venue to bring good entertainment, and I know they have booze, even if it is not that great.
Yeah.
Having a beer after work,
Yeah.
or I'm kicking off Saturday, whatever it's going to be.
I've been there before. It's been good. It'll be good again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have a theory about why it's hard to attract people to downtown specifically.
Yeah.
And used to work in
You
government.
mean other than fentanyl?
Yeah, well, yeah, that adds into it, right? And you used to work in government, so I think you can add a bit of insight to that. I think, Albuquerque as a city has the stigma, but I think downtown, meaning like the bar district, and then honestly, it kind of extends out to Nob Hill as well. People are just, generally speaking, they are not as inclined to just go downtown and say, hey, what's going on tonight? Because of the crime that's rampant. Doesn't look like government's doing a whole lot to stop it.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of, it's like, there has to be a better term for it, but it's like whatever government virtue signaling is, that's what they do. Right? It's like, yeah, we're going to fix crime by doing this big thing. And then it fizzles out. Nothing comes out of it. Right. And then they commit to it for like a week. Yeah. Right? Whether it's because they're too inept to act on whatever they say they're going to act on, or like we saw recently with the gun ban The public was like, that's stupid. Even for a liberal city, what you just said is stupid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like a lot of it has to do with the almost unmanageable crime and homelessness that's going on. Because I think about it like I had heard of barking, right? I had heard that term, but I didn't know what it was until I watched Crashing on HBO. Have you seen that show?
Yeah, the Pete Holmes.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, well, I don't know how effective that is.
0%.
Yeah. But like my point in bringing that up is you'll never see that in Albuquerque. That will never happen.
We do try it for some dry heat shows, but yeah, if you're downtown, you're there to go to a show.
You are making a beeline to your bar of choice.
Yeah.
100%.
I don't have any answers about homelessness or drug abuse, and clearly no one does. It's the will to do it.
I guess it's specifically its effect on like comedy, right?
Yeah.
On the ability to promote shows, get people downtown. Dude. That's why I think Santa Ana is such a good spot. And even like Uptown. Yeah. Uptown would be fucking great for hyenas to show up.
Lots of traffic there.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is just something I think about. I don't know. I've lived in enough places to say like Albuquerque is not just downtown, the least walkable place I've ever been.
Yeah.
It's the least
real.
It's a city made for cars.
Yeah.
And so that contributes to it.
Yeah.
Cause you walk in Denver. I've talked a lot about Denver. This whole podcast could be an ad for Denver. But it's true in Chicago too. Chicago's more like a city of neighborhoods. But I'm just thinking of like the 16th Street Mall in Denver. They got homeless people there. It's kind of dingy. It's not as nice, as maybe it used to be. I don't know. But it's a walkable artery. And around there are clubs, bars. There's just, instead of like in Albuquerque where it's very destination based because we're a car centric city. Like you have to, when you're leaving your house, you're going somewhere to go to that place. You're going to this bar, you're going to this concert venue, you're going to the movies, you're going to the comedy club. You're not just, let's park in a parking garage and just see where the night takes us. No one does that ever.
Right.
Whether it's in the crime and the homelessness definitely play a factor in that, but it's like, even if downtown was wiped free of all that, can you imagine just like, let's just stroll. It's like, it's not very nice to walk around. It's office buildings. It's just kind of not. So that's part of it, I think, is like, because barking, maybe I said 0% successful. Maybe it works in New York. I can't imagine. But like a city like that where people are walking everywhere, it's public transportation, you're just around.
Right.
I'd be open to it. Some guy says like, oh, this person's at the show. Maybe he's lying. I don't know. I got no plans.
It's like Jerry Seinfeld's going to be comics like Jerry.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, the guy doing a Jerry Seinfeld impression. But like, you're just kind of walking around like the wind. I remember in college or even just in Chicago, because Chicago's a city and neighborhoods. Like you just kind of, you're like, we're in this neighborhood. We're in Wicker Park tonight. Yeah. Figure it out from there. We're like, you just, let's take a subway, go to this area. You just kind of you're just in the wind, and that does not happen here. And so like, you're never going to, that's just infrastructure. That's zoning. That's like, I don't know how you fix that. That's just the way it is. And Albuquerque is also very limited because we're surrounded by tribal land. We're not going to build new places. Right. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So like having a club at the casino at Santa Ana and Uptown where the people are, thousands of people are there every day for the mall or for whatever it is, restaurants. Those are good places to have them because that works with what we have. It's not a pedestrian paradise.
No, you're right. Yeah. No, you are completely fucking right. To shift gears a little bit into your life, you moved to Santa Fe from Chicago, get a job at the newspaper.
Yeah.
Okay, so how long were you at the newspaper for?
About 3 years.
Okay. Yeah. Did your writing for the newspaper, did that help you write it? Did that help you in your writing at all with comedy? Was there any type of crossover there?
Interesting. I never thought about that. I don't think so. The only way those two things overlap is that at the newspaper, you had to write fast. Like, I'm a very fast writer. And whether it's good or not, it's kind of secondary because in a newspaper setting, the newspaper's coming out every day, no matter what. So at a certain point, it doesn't have to be good. It just has to be done.
Was it true that newspapers generally have to be written at a third grade reading level so that everyone can read it?
No.
I remember getting told that as a kid. Or not as a kid, like when I was like middle school or high school.
No. I mean, maybe that's...
So it's like accessible to the public?
That's not a rule or anything they teach you. That might be like subconsciously you don't want to be inaccessible. So like you might dumb it down. But like, again, like to what I'm saying, you don't have the time to write some flowery prose. Like you just got to get it out. Like what happened? Who did I talk to? This is what it is. It's done. I got to get out of here. I got to get to the bar. Like you don't have. So in that sense, it connects to my comedy in the sense that that's an interesting question because maybe it does in other ways, but I don't think so. But like it forces you to not be precious. And I think, I mean, I can't speak for other people, but like there are times where I'll spend too much time on it thinking about it. Just like, I can't crack it. What the hell? You got to just get up and do it. Like you're not going to learn. There's diminishing returns to just sitting and stewing on an idea. And I don't suffer too much from that because I have had that practice of like, whatever it is, just get it out. Just, you know, I'm very deadline oriented in that way because newspapers are all deadlines. So it helped in that sense. But like in terms of writing otherwise, I mean, newspaper writing I love writing. I come from that background, but it's not fun. So, I mean, It informed my comedy in the sense that I learned what I didn't like to write, and I didn't like the feeling of being in the center of conflicts, whether it's political or neighborhood disputes, whatever it is, and you kind of got to have both sides in there, even when you have feelings about it, and you kind of got to bury those and try to be neutral and fair, and it's like, I'd rather just say what the fuck I think. Like, you can only do so much. There are people who write in newspapers their whole lives, and that's great. But I knew like pretty early on, I was like, it's not that my opinions are so great. I got to get them out there. The world needs to hear them. But I makes me happier to to sort of like, instead of asking what other people think about things, sort of ask myself like how I feel about it and go from there.
Well, it sounds like if there were to be two takeaways from that to comedy, the first one, right, is to be quick. So obviously that applies to the roast battles. But then at the other point too, it sounds like you can find yourself in a good happy medium between, okay, and something that I'm learning personally in writing jokes is that the most important part about the joke, other than it being funny, is why is it your perspective? Why is it your opinion on the matter? But then also, you have to be in service of what you're writing, in service of the joke. So in that way, you can't be too committed to it. If it's not working, it's not working.
Yeah.
It can help that whatever muscle in your brain that helps you diffuse that information. It sounds like it kind of applies that way too.
Yeah, and like just to kind of adjacent to what you're saying is like structure. So like newspaper writing or news writing in general is very like most important information first. The inverted pyramid is what they call it. So like the most important information is the biggest part, and then as you go down in the story, it can be more inner, just sort of sideways stuff. But in comedy, there is every joke is different, but there are certain structures that if you can, when you've heard enough comedy and done enough comedy, you kind of have this pattern recognition where you're like, you have a thought, you're like, oh, this could be funny, and you kind of start to understand intuitively almost like, this is the important part of that idea. Start with this. Or you can flip it around and it's funnier that way, like invert it. But there is this idea of like, not just like not being precious about it and like sort of letting an idea go if it doesn't work, but knowing if you have a good idea, how is this the best way to communicate this?
Do you find it hard for you to attach yourself to an idea you might not organically be interested in, but you know there's something funny there?
I don't know. When I was earlier on, I might have had that problem because like the more you do it, not like I've been doing comedy 5 years, not like I'm some great expert, but you do start to get a sense of this is my voice. Like I'm writing the joke from my perspective. And I think all good jokes, truly all, like I don't really think there's any exceptions, good jokes performed by good comedians are very authentic to who that person is. And at the end of their set, even if they aren't explicit about it, you kind of know who that person is. You have an idea of like, I know where this person's coming from. And so you wouldn't even have that problem of, I did write this down in my notebook. It seems like a funny idea. I'm not that interested. You wouldn't even get into that because you're like, it's not coming from any organic, authentic place of me. And so the more you do it, I do think that sort of falls away. Where you're like, the only things I'm interested in writing about or talking about on stage are these subjects right now. Or that's not to rule out anything, but you're like, I'll have an idea, and it's like, if you have an idea that's kind of not yours or not like coming from, not authentic to you, you're not going to spend too much time on that.
Right. What? I wonder if it has hit you yet, but like what part of the last 5 years of doing comedy, was there ever a point where it's like, okay, no, I'm not only do I enjoy this, but I might actually be really good at it, and then to take that a step further, I could potentially make this a career. Like I could actually be a working, sustainable comedian on this type of paycheck. Did that ever click? Has it clicked yet?
The psychotic answer is
no. You know what? And that's funny you say that because I did a guest spot on a podcast like 3 weeks ago. And again, I do not parade myself as a comedian. I don't ever I am a dude that tries comedy. That is how I refer myself. I try comedy. But
got a good healthy self perspective. Because there's people who've done one open mic and they would say,
I know what the fuck I am.
I've been a comedian. Yeah,
I'm a comedian. Yeah, no, definitely the fuck not. No. But because the two hosts that we've become friends, and they know that I've done a couple open mics at that point, and they were like, when do you? I just lost my train of thought. Holy shit! It just completely
pause it,
evaporated out of my fucking head.
You started going because I said I had a psychotic answer. So
the delusion, saying, right?
Yeah.
They asked. Thank you very much. They asked me why did I try comedy, or why do I enjoy it, and why do I try it? And I said, well, there has to be a healthy level of delusion.
Oh, absolutely.
To say, you know what? I think I'm funny. Not only do I think I'm funny to my friends, you kind of have to be, right? I think I'm funny in public. There's a healthy. So when is it? Thank you for getting me back on track.
No, I got
so
you.
For you, did it click? Has it clicked yet? Where it's like, okay, I could do this for a career, and then how much of it was or how much of it is, hey, I have to accept that 25% of this is just hopeful delusion, but I'm going to try it anyway.
I mean, it's an interesting subject. Like you talk about the delusion. Like I would say there's degrees of delusion. There's the delusion. So to answer your question, like what I was going to say is the psychotic answer to that is like right from the start. I was like, I'm good enough. And of course I wasn't, but I liked comedy enough, and I had, despite all the layers of crippling self-hatred and doubt, I was like, somewhere deep down there, you have to believe in yourself enough to get up at first. And then that fades away after you suck for enough time. The light doesn't go out, but you're like, man, I'm not immediately hugely successful. What the hell? But I do think comedy is very, it's very, I shouldn't say fair, but it is, I don't know exactly what word I'm looking for, but if you take it seriously and you do the right, you're committed to the process of it. If you like doing the writing and the joke creation and the performing enough, you lose that delusion, or the delusion is sidelined for a more healthy understanding of and gratitude for the little victories that you get along the way. And so for me, I would honestly say last year. So depending on with the COVID, taking that out, I'm 4 or 5 years in. Last year was the first time, I remember saying this to other comics that I'm friends with at the time. I was like, it was March of last year. I was like, this is the first time I'm actually having fun doing it. I forgot to have fun because I was so focused on just trying to get better that it took me that long. Maybe it takes other people longer. Maybe people just always have fun. For me, it's like 4 years in where I was like, I started to, and I don't think it was because I started getting better. That didn't hurt, but I just sort of unlocked something from doing it enough that I was like, I'm remembering that I like doing this. I can feel myself getting better at it, and I'm prioritizing the fun. And I guess that's what I mean by, instead of saying it's fair, but comedy is one of those things where the more you do it, and it's impossible. It's a lifelong. It's like golf. You're never gonna. Tiger Woods doesn't hit a hole in one every hole, but you get something. I do think there's a lot of golf analogies or baseball with comedy, but like the more you do it, the more you unlock. Like I didn't realize that this was. That's what I mean by like the little victories of like. I didn't realize this was a goal for me, was to get better at this part of it, but I have. And so I get some satisfaction from that. So for me, from the beginning, I thought I was good enough, and then I did it enough that I learned how wrong I was and started to appreciate the incremental but steady progress that I was making just by being committed to it. So it was gratifying in that way to like feel that kind of breakthrough of like, oh yeah, you gotta have fun. Like shit, this is fun. I like doing this. And then that gives you a second win. But like, I don't know. I mean, I still don't. I think part of your question was like, how do you make, like, do you feel like you can make a living off of it? It's like, I mean, I would love to be even just a road comic and like make enough to just scratch out a living doing it. Cause it's like, it's the only thing I like to do. So that's the goal. But like, I mean, I talk with my friend Chuck Parker about this a lot. He's another good comic.
Yeah, shout out Chuck. I had him on the podcast too.
You did?
Yeah, great guy.
Nice.
See him most Wednesdays. So yeah, great guy.
He's me and him have lots of good comedy talks, but like just talking about like the process of it, and just like I'm a Cubs fan, and like Joe Madden, the manager, when they won the World Series, had one of his mottos was like the process over the results. And I do think it applies to comedy because you just got to focus on what you can control. And for most people, and for me, that's just getting better. Like try and learn more about this art form, more about your ability to, what your strengths are, like what you like doing, keeping it fun for yourself, and can't worry about like the results. I mean, like if you do the right things, hopefully, but at the end of the day, it's like that's out of your hands. All you can control is just trying to get funnier.
What element of it made it fun for you again? Not made it fun for you again, but help you rediscover what the fun of it is. Like, what was it? An element or elements of it? Was it?
I don't know. It's just like it wasn't even that I didn't. If you had asked me like a week before I had that realization, I would have said like, yeah, I'm having fun. So it's not like I was aware of it and like searching for some like breakthrough. I was just like, something clicked, and I was like. Maybe it was that I started to feel myself getting better at it, but I was just like, or like, not that you see some light at the end of the tunnel, but you're just like, I've been doing so many shitty gigs. I'm starting to get better opportunities or whatever it is. Like, I truly don't know. I mean, it might have just been like doing enough shows with enough frequency that I was just feeling more comfortable on stage. And like, it's like, took me like almost that long, like to, and I see this with a lot of like, open micers and new people, not specifically singling you out or anything, but like there are people who, when they like, and this was true for me too, like early on, you're not inside your body. Like if you're not comfortable with public speaking, and no one would be in a comedy setting, it's impossible. You're hearing things and you're seeing out of your eyes, but you're not really. Like you're not all the way present. And so one of the things was that I just felt more present on stage. And that's just the only way you get there is reps. Like I just felt like I could make decisions on stage, like choose to talk to this person that's been talking the whole show instead of just like trying to force your way through it and ignore them. Like, no, I actually feel confident enough to address this and make this funny and not let everyone feel uncomfortable. Or like change stream in the middle of your set. Like that's not working. Don't do that. Like feeling that flexibility on stage and like that comes with the experience. Like the only way you'll get that is, I mean, you can't buy that. You you got to work your way to that point. And so like I just started to feel more flexible and like comfortable just making decisions and being present.
See, and it's funny you say that. Because growing up, I was the kid in middle school and high school that if we had to do public speaking, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Like I will call in sick.
Right.
I will take an F on that assignment.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Like, please go fuck yourself. I will not do this, right?
Yeah.
And every time I tell the story, I have to give huge credit to A-Marie Castillo, because she's the one that told me this. Because the first time I did stand-up was at the open mic that her and Buck ran for a little bit of time at Inside Out. And I've told them both of this. I've told both of them this many times. I'm very sad that open mic went away, because I thought that was a blast.
Yeah.
Cheap drinks, great venue. It was nice outside. We sweated our asses off a couple times, but it was fun. Right? It was a cool place. But when I went up for the first time and did the open mic there, she had to come up to me. Otherwise, God bless her, because how transparent she was. She goes, "You need to work on your writing, because your writing sucks, but you're good on stage." And I was like, "I will take that. Thank you very much." And it's funny you say like I bring that up because of the present, being present on stage. I find that for whatever reason, if I had to go up there, if you told me to give a speech, I don't think I could do it. But if going up and doing comedy, again, I've only done like 2 small shows at a brewery that were free.
Yeah.
And then just open mics after that, right?
Yeah.
Just open mics after that. I've never, with the exception of those 2, like actual, because they were shows, but aside from those 2, I've never been nervous for an open mic.
Right.
If not for just, not nervous, but just questioning the strength of what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
You know, the strength of the joke, the strength of the tag, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, you're apprehensive just because you're like, will this work? Yeah, but that's different from being nervous.
Right. And then I get up there, and I'm doing my best to like lean into this, because like you just said, I know that it takes I feel, I don't say this like to boast or anything, I say because I'm very thankful. Yeah. I'm very thankful that I'm not nervous up on stage, or I'm not nervous in front of crowds doing comedy. And the weird thing is, like, if I get through my joke, or I get through whatever bit I'm doing, and then I just stop for a couple seconds and like almost recenter, that almost resets the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's a very, I mean, that is something that takes a lot of people a long time to get to, is like slowing down. Because you see new comics and even just inexperienced comics like just sort of sprint through their jokes. Or if they're not doing that, like from one to, like, they won't let the crowd laugh.
I literally have to tell myself, if I get a laugh, I have to tell myself in my head to shut up.
Well, even for someone who's really good at comedy, you have to, there's a not fear, but there's a something, it's like it's where the rubber meets the road, is like when you hit your punchline, are you going to let that sit there and give them a chance to laugh at it? Or are you going to run to your next joke because you're afraid of that silence?
Right.
If it didn't hit. And so you get, I mean, there's comics I know who, dude, they've been doing comedy longer than me, and they still don't do that. They won't let that silence just sort of sit there, because it's terrifying. Because if they don't laugh, then this whole thing is a jerk off. What the fuck am I doing up here? You got to let it sit. And it's the confidence that comes with whether it's reps or good writing or both or stage presence. Like at a certain point you realize, like, I don't need to be afraid of that silence. And in fact, that's what makes the comedy work, is you're not preaching to them and moving on to your next thing. We're in dialogue. You're not speaking, but there are pauses that you must fill that for this to work. And I have to give you the space to do that. And that's when it starts to feel like magic, is when you're like, I'm offering this, they're receiving it. You just sort of let that laugh die out. And then you're like, from square one, here we go again. And that is when you're riding, when you feel in the pocket like that, that's when it's at its best. But like, I mean, and I've noticed that about you. You are, and your writing's fucking shit. But A-Marie was right. But no, there is you do have a good, you're not afraid up there. And I think even anybody who's watching would be like, yeah, this guy's comfortable talking, which, I mean, for me, it took me a while to feel comfortable talking, but like I was confident in the jokes, but I wasn't delivering them right because I was sprinting through them because I was just not the delivery. My material was better than my stage presence. So there was a mismatch of like people would be like, that was funny, but I had a note once from I was in a play early on when I was doing comedy, and the director gave me a note in the play that actually was perfect for comedy too, because it was a funny play. I helped write it, and it was a comedy. And as a character, he just comes up to me after one rehearsal, and he's just like, "You got happy feet," and I was like, "What?" I don't. I'm just moving around too much, and like that's a physical thing, but it's also it's your demeanor, it's everything. And he's like, the audience doesn't know when to laugh because you never stop moving. Like you have to plant. Like they're not exactly, and that's like what I'm like. It's not just your feet. Like you are, your rhythm is off because you're afraid of that silence, that give and take. So you have to plant and deliver. And I've given that note to people too, because it was so helpful for me to just like think about it as your feet, but you think about it, it's everything. Like you have to be confident in the line or the thought that you're building to, and settle and deliver it. Like you can't be moving around through it. Like you gotta cue the audience. This is the funny part.
So when you so when you were in your beginning stages, and because you said your delivery was good, but your stage presence was poor, the inflection and the timing was fine, but your physicality was off. That is the weird thing about comedy. One of the weird things is your physicality keys in the audience on when it's like, okay, now laugh.
Yeah.
Now laugh. Like, I think one of the best practitioners of that right now is Shane Gillis.
Yeah, he's a good, he punctuates well.
Like him, Schultz are probably the top two. And then obviously Chappelle does that very well as well.
Yeah.
But it's almost like they freeze at a point to let the audience, like, okay, the laughter starts and they start moving around again.
You got to give them space to think about it. And then a tag is like reminding them, like, or even sometimes they didn't laugh at the joke, but you hit the tag and then they're like, oh, yeah, I did like that, because you got to space them. There's like a musicality to it. It is musical. There's like rhythms to, and each person's is different, but like you do have to have that. It's confidence in your material, and also like I still will watch clips of myself and I don't think my physicality is good enough. Like I'm very hard on myself, like perfectionist with this, but like it's not like I'm not a big act out like guy, but I want to try to be that more, because I don't think it's serving the jokes very well. And like one note I've given myself recently is I have to, in every set, whether it's a mic or a show, I have to yell once and whisper once, because I'm not doing enough vocal dynamics. Otherwise, I can hear myself right now. I'm very flat. If I don't make myself think about that, I will just drone. And when I'm watching it, I'm like, I would be bored if I was in the audience. Like, you got to do a little Stephen A. Smith. Like, give them some entertainment. Like, hit it, emphasize something. Like, not as crazy as him. I mean, he's an artist, but like, you do have to. So like, that's my note for myself, is one whisper, one yell. You gotta have that range.
You can't just ride that the whole time, like flatline always.
I'll just go like this.
Gotta give some fucking heartbeat.
Like, hit that word. Hit that line. Actually emphasize it so they can feel it.
I'm going to use that. That's a good way of looking at it.
I don't know if that's good advice for everybody. Some people yell too much. Some people whisper too much.
Well, no, that is good advice for people that yell too much, because if they're yelling too much, they're still flatlining. They're just up here the whole fucking time. Maybe come back down to give the highs more value.
Well, Chuck early on, and I'm not talking out of school. We talked about this, me and him directly, but like his act used to be very screamy. And he's taken it down and he still screams, but it's like, you can't be here the whole time. Like, you have to give them some space so that this actually hits. If you're up here the whole time, there's nowhere else for you to go. Well, I can't get bigger, so you got to come back down. So then when you go up, it actually moves them in some way.
I've noticed that even in the last 2 years that I've been like going out watching comedy, seeing and as a byproduct of that, seeing him do comedy. Yeah, he's really honed in the monotone of his act.
Yeah.
Look, I know we have to cut for time a little early
yeah.
because of the open mic. So the last thing I want to ask you is, because I definitely want to do this again because you're just a fucking wealth of knowledge. But
thank you.
What is keeping you loving comedy? Because again, like people see it on a surface value, but you never really experience. Like me personally, I've bombed, but I don't think I've ever experienced a true bomb on stage.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
You'll know it when you have
a real doozy. Because I've done very poorly. I've fallen on my face on stage. But I go sit down, I'm like, that sucked. But what did I learn? I can usually get a little bit of a positive spin on it, but I know my first bomb is coming. I don't know when.
That's exciting.
I don't know where, but I know that my real first, like, oh God, that was bad.
Yeah.
Is coming.
They hated me.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
They want to fight me.
We're like, it's so bad. That's a good way to put it, actually, because even on my second show that I did with A. Marie, I did not do well at all. Did quite bad, but the audience still kind of liked me. Yeah. They're like, oh, look at the puppy fall off the train. Yeah. Oh, that sucks. But it's like, oh, we feel bad for him. But then I know that at some point I'm going to do an open mic, maybe even a show where I say the one thing or whatever it is, where the audience in a majority
contempt
turns on me. Sure. And it's like, oh no, this dude's insert whatever phobe, bigot, whatever. So like people don't understand how bad that can truly be or how damaging that can be, right? So, and I'm assuming you've experienced some pretty nasty bombs yourself.
Yeah.
You know, so like what, even with that, the reason why I bring all that up is even when experiencing that, what keeps you doing it? Just you show up to a mic and you get up there and you say something, but then what keeps you loving it?
It's all just a fear of that happening. Just trying to stay afloat. Just don't want them to hate me. I still remember the bar outside Nashville. I had to vacate the premises. I didn't even get paid. They hated me that much.
Oh, Jesus. Was it a joke you said? I'm assuming.
Dude, it was some, not to excuse myself, but, you know, like I was bad. But some places comedy should not happen. Like there are just some.
Did you go to a fucking Klan rally? Where were you?
It might have been on like the next night. Like we got comedy tonight, and then we got the hoods and vests tomorrow. But it was like this place just had no interest in comedy. It was forced upon them, and it was a bar, and they're just like, we fucking hate you. And I don't think of myself as that. Like I got Trump jokes for some rooms. I got some other, government, whatever jokes for other rooms. Like I can play anyone, but they were like, this fucking Yankee thinks he can come down here and talk to us with these big syllable words. Who the fuck? They hated me. Anyway, the answer to the question is, and it's a good question because I think anyone who does comedy for any stretch of time, has to keep it fun for themselves. It's too hard to do to just have as a hobby with no real aim to it. Like if you don't get something out of it, just play chess, dude. Like it won't hurt as much. Like just don't. I mean, seriously, like you there's easier ways to get a rush. Like you don't have to force. Like I see people and I'm like, bro, get a hobby that's not this. But you're hurting yourself. But for me, I love more than killing, more than having a great show. I love writing jokes. My favorite part of comedy is when I write something and I think to myself, like, this is going to work. And then sometimes it doesn't, but that's fun too. I'm like, okay, I heard where it could work and I like this. I'm excited about an idea. And so for me, like that, it can't beat that. That's my favorite thing in the world. And so, yeah, like I love crushing. I like having a great show. I like feeling like, yes, that was good. But you could take that away. I like writing. I like having an idea and sort of just seeing it through, like doing the arc of it. Like this started like this. I was excited about it. No, I had a couple, no. heard the audience, took some feedback, got a note, here we go. And like just having that experience is still to me like that's my favorite thing. That's the fun of it for me. And I'm not saying like having great shows and killing is not important. Like if you like doing comedy, you got to have those if you want to be good, but like, and you got to like learn from those too. But the baseline for me is just like, just finding a new thing that you're like, I got a new joke that's a priceless feeling. Like I just, that doesn't, nothing beats that. So that's what's fun for me.
Fuck yeah. Well, like I said, man, I would love to do this again sometime.
Hell yeah, anytime.
This has been a blast. For everyone listening, where can they find you on like all your social media stuff?
Yeah, I'm sure my name will be in the thing. It's hard to spell, but it's just my first name and last name, Tripp Stelnicki. On all the social medias, I do funny little videos. Follow me so I can get booked places. Please, I'm begging. And so that was my one whisper. And I got a show. When do these come out?
This is going to come out, what's today? Monday, so then that'll drop. Okay, this is going to, at the earliest, it'll be Friday. At the latest, it'll be week from now.
Well, you'll miss me on Thursday at Elvado, but, we mentioned the roast battle. That's December 29th at Revel, and then I'm at the Outpost 2 days before that, December 27th. That's in Old Town. And then if you're in Santa Fe on New Year's Eve, I'm doing a show at Santa Fe Improv.
Fuck yeah.
I got all that on the socials.
Hell yeah. Well, again, thank you, man, for your time.
Thanks
I know it's valuable, so thanks for coming.
Appreciate you.
And thank you, everyone, for listening and watching, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Yeah.